Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Sichos Haran shir. Tonight we're going to be doing Sichos 73, 74, and 75. We're going to delve further into tefillah, into davening. As I mentioned last week, this is Rebbe Nachman's favorite subject. This is what he urged his Hasidim about, the avodah, the service, the work of tefillah. I use the term avodah because we see from Rebbe Nachman the work that needs to be done in tefillah. It's not something that you just open your siddur and boom, you're just constantly connecting to Hashem. It's something that we all need to work on. So let's delve right in. So it happens to be that Sichos 73 is not about tefillah, but I wanted to stick with this theme, and it's a short piece, and that's what we're up to. So we're gonna start with that. So I'm gonna pull up the share screen. Okay, 73 on the bottom. There are tzaddikim who reveal what they see immediately. These tzaddikim are in the category of Minatz Pach. The Talmud states Minatz Pach was stated by the seers from Megillah. Those in the category of Minatz Pach must state what they see. Minatz Pach is a category of constriction, and those within it are incapable of keeping a vision to themselves. Other tzaddikim possess souls from a higher level. These are from a spacious realm and have room to keep their visions to themselves. Okay, so this is an interesting subject here. Rabbi Nachman's talking about two different types of tzaddikim. And one of these types of tzaddikim are called Minatz Pach. So I'm just gonna pull up my little handwriting over here. So Minatz Pach are all the end letters, like the ones that change form as depending on where they are in the word. So like this mem would be in the middle of the word, and this is mem sofi, and that would be at the end of the word. And the same for the nun. This is in the beginning, this is in the end, tzadi, pei, and the chaf. So Rabbi Nachman saying that the tzaddikim that fall into this category of Minatz Pach, they get an insight, and they're unable to hold it within themselves. They have to share it right away. But Rabbi Nachman is telling us that there are tzaddikim on a higher level that when they get some type of vision or some type of insight, they're able to keep it to themselves for as long as need be. Okay, so that's pretty much all I know on the subject, to be honest with you. And now we're going to go to Sikha number 74. So again, Sikha number 74 and 75 are about tefillah. So let's get right to it. 74, I'm going to pull up the share screen again. Okay, over here. Okay. Sometimes your prayers may be devoid of enthusiasm. At such times, you must compel your emotions and make your heart burn with the words. So, everybody at some point, their tefillos, their davening doesn't have any kavanah, doesn't have any enthusiasm. It's just by rote, it's just boring. And Rabbi Nachman's telling us at those times, we have to make our heart burn with the words. We have to fire ourselves up. Sometimes a person rouses himself and actually makes himself angry, as people say, schnitzel sich ein Reges. He creates his own anger, from Sadik 196. You must do the same during prayer. Be like a man who makes himself angry. Work yourself up and bring heat and a flaming heart into your prayers. The enthusiasm may be forced at first, but eventually will become real. Your heart will burst aflame with God's praise, and you'll be worthy of praying with passion. So Rabbi Nachman's telling us that we have to fire ourselves up, make ourselves angry so we could burn with passion and connect to Hashem and use it in tefillah, like use this anger to connect to Hashem in tefillah. And he says, even if it's artificial at first, at some point in tefillah, it's going to become real. This actually reminded me of a story. Like, I remember being in seminary in my Shana Bet year in Israel, and we took a Kibri Tzadikim trip, and all the girls in the seminary happened to be very intense. And by every kiver, they were all davening their hearts out. And I remember not connecting at all. And it was a lot for me, like feeling all the pressure. Honestly, probably was too much for everyone, but okay. Anyway, so everyone just really wanted to get into it. And, everyone wants to be more intense and hardcore more than the next person, right? So I remember I was really trying to inspire myself because I felt like such a loser that I wasn't connecting at all and that I was feeling nothing. And it just reminded me of this, because this whole feeling of like trying to fire yourself up and trying to get yourself into the tefillah. So, but I think, we all go through this. I mean, I just gave like some weird example that came to me as I was preparing this, but I think we all go through this. Like on Rosh Hashanah, sometimes we feel like we're not davening with enough kavanah, or Yom Kippur, or at other points, we know that we should be davening with lots and lots of kavanah, and we try to fire ourselves up to get ourselves into the tefillah. So Rebbe Nachman is saying it's a good thing. Okay, so, the seminary girls had it right. Okay, so we're just going to continue with the piece. You can make yourself happy in the same way, particularly during your prayers. Pray with great joy. Even if this happiness is forced, happiness is always a virtue, but it is especially so during prayer. So Rebbe Nachman is saying you could even make yourself happy like this. Put up the front, pretend that you're happy, and then eventually it's gonna settle in, and you'll feel this happiness, and it will help you with prayer. Also, if you're disturbed and unhappy, you can at least put on a happy front. Deep down, you may be depressed, but if you act happy, you will eventually be worthy of true joy. This is true of every holy thing. If you have no enthusiasm, put on a front. Act enthusiastic. The feeling will eventually become genuine. Understand this well. So Rebbe Nachman is saying that with every holy thing, if you're not there holding at that point that you want to be, just put up the front, pretend that you are, and eventually it will trickle down and it will be true. So great advice. If you're not holding by a certain point, just put on the front and pretend that you're there, and it will come true. It's kind of like when we dress up in costumes. Everyone, when they dress up in a costume, they start acting the part. So Rebbe Nachman is bringing the same point here. Act the part, and eventually it will be the real you. Okay, so now we're going to go to Sichos number 75. This is also on prayer. It's long, but it's so straightforward and so great, and so many awesome points in it. So I'm going to pull up the share screen again. Okay. The Rebbe often spoke with us about prayer. He constantly told us to force ourselves to pray with devotion, strongly binding our thoughts to each word and listening very carefully to the words we are saying. So again, we're seeing here that Rebbe Nachman always spoke to his Hasidim about prayer and constantly told them, just daven with kavanah, daven strongly. Listen to each word. The Rebbe had also told many of his disciples to study the Kabbalistic writings of the Ari, but even these disciples were not advised to follow the Kabbalistic devotions during prayer found in the works. He said that perfect prayer is the plain meaning of such words as Baruch Atah Hashem, blessed are you God. Devotion is concentrating on the meaning of the words and listening to them carefully. So Rebbe Nachman is stressing something very special here. He's saying, just listen to the words you're saying. You don't have to have these high kavanos from the Ari. You don't have to be connecting on this very, very high level. You just need to listen to what you're saying. And I think it's important to mention here that that's just good advice in general. So many times we'll be having conversations with Hashem, we'll be having conversations with people, and we don't actually listen to what we're saying. And I think if we would listen to what we're saying, get into this habit, there's a lot that we would say and a lot that we wouldn't say. And we would just be a lot more careful. Okay, so the Rebbe would ridicule those who said that a person should not force himself to pray. He advised us very strongly to pray with all our might, putting all our strength into each letter of the service. See his wisdom, number 66. So again, Rabbi Nachman saying prayer is so important. You need to be, even if you're not feeling it, even if it's not going well for you, you need to be working at it and pray with all your might and force yourself to pray. He also instructed us to ignore all disturbing thoughts during prayer. His advice was that we merely pray correctly, disregarding all distractions. He said we should turn our minds away from all such thoughts completely. So Rabbi Nachman told everyone to try and ignore all the extraneous thoughts that come into our minds, all the distractions. We just need to wash them out of our mind and focus on what we need to. So I just want to mention here, I'm actually just going to bring in the share screen, but we'll just read a small part of it. This is from A Bit More Advice, but Pesach is very soon. So I thought that this was a great little connection, big connection here. This is also about tefillah, number 11. Be very much on the alert to keep your mind clear of extraneous knowledge and irrelevant thoughts. These are called chametz. Extraneous knowledge and irrelevant thoughts harm the mind. They introduce heresy into the mind. Just as eating chametz on the days of Pesach clods and contaminates the mind, so does thinking about matters that are trivial or superfluous to your life damage the mind. So Rabbi Nachman actually compares these distracting thoughts to chametz. Just like chametz damages us, these extraneous thoughts damage us too. Just thought that was a really great connection. Okay, back to the piece. Sorry, one sec, I just lost. Okay, the Rebbe also said that it may be impossible to go through the entire service with proper devotion. Still, each person can say a small portion with true feeling. We see this all the time. One person might have deep feelings while saying the Ketores. The other the prayers in the place of the incense offering. Another may pray best during the Pesukei de Zimra, the opening psalms. So Rabbi Nachman saying here that people might connect at different points. Some people are more connected to Hodu. Other people are more connected to Shemona Esrei or Shema. And he said it is hard to go through tefillah and be completely submerged and connected the whole time. But still, you should take, these points that you do connect to, really take full advantage of them. I, Reb Nosson, once saw a lesson regarding this in the Rebbe's writings. It was never copied, and I can only report what I remember. The Tikkun Zohar states that there are masters of the hands and masters of the feet. The human body has a transcendental counterpart, and each of its limbs corresponds to a portion of the service. Each person is also associated with a particular limb. When he comes to the part of the service pertaining to his limb, he is aroused to great devotion. You may sometimes pray with great devotion, but then the feeling departs and the words begin to seem empty. Do not be discouraged, for you have merely left your area in the transcendental form. Continue the service, saying each word in absolute simplicity. So Reb Nosson is saying here in the words of Rabbi Nachman that each person correlates to a limb, and each limb correlates to a different point in tefillah. So you might have this very deep connection that you're unaware of to one point in tefillah. And then once you move on from that tefillah, you're not as connected. But Reb Nosson is saying here When the words begin to feel empty, don't be discouraged. Just keep on going at it. Keep on davening and keep on working on this avoda, on this work of tefillah, and try to connect as best as you could. And again, I know I said this before, but I think it's really, really powerful what Rebbe Nachman keeps on stressing. Continue the service, saying each word in absolute simplicity. Just focus on the meaning. Listen to the words that you're saying. It goes really, really far. Sometimes you will try very hard and still not be able to pray, but never become discouraged. This is the most important rule of all. So what's the most important rule? The most important rule is to never be discouraged, no matter how bad your tefillos are. Whether your tefillos are bad for a day, whether your tefillos are bad for a week, whether they're bad for a month, don't be discouraged. Don't give up. Force yourself to say each word of the service. Make believe you are a child just learning to read and simply say the words. In most cases, God will touch your heart with a flame and it will be aroused to pray with feeling. Just do not make a test for this. So by going through the words simply and carefully, as Rabbi Nachman says, in most cases, Hashem will do the rest of the work for you. Just be simple about it. Just try your best. For deep inside, you are very far from prayer. Prayer is very high. It is even above the study of Torah. How can you be worthy of serving God in such a lofty manner? Do your part. Simply begin the words of the service, Adon Olam Asher Malach, Lord of the world who reigns. Listen to every word you say. Concentrate and do not let your thoughts stray. Simply keep your mind on the words of the service. Follow the order of the service even without feeling. Continue word by word, page by page, until God helps you achieve a feeling of devotion. And even if you complete the entire service without feeling, it's not the end. You can still say Psalm. There are other prayers to be said. So, Rabbi Nachman's telling us that prayer is so high, prayer is so lofty. And he says it's even above the study of Torah. And he asks, like, how is it? How could we be worthy of serving Hashem in this way through tefillah? So that's why we just have to be simple about it. And we just have to say the words as best as we could. And we just have to try to connect as best as we could. And I love this point that he says, even if you daven the entire tefillah without connecting, it's okay. There's still hope. There's still Tehillim that you could say. There's still tomorrow that you could daven again. There's always something to be done. And nobody ever has to feel like it's pointless. In general, you must force yourself to do every holy task with all your might. This is especially true of prayer, but if you are worthy of achieving this, it is still forbidden to become discouraged. Be strong and cheer yourself as much as possible. This is discussed in the Rebbe's published works. Pray in happiness with a joyful tune. Put yourself into a cheerful mood before you begin your worship. Seek out your good points, using them to bring joy to your prayers. This is discussed in Likutei Moharan on the verse, I will sing to God where I exist. So Rabbi Nachman has a great Torah on this subject, but Rabbi Nachman saying, you might feel sad that day after day after day, you have no kavanah, you can't connect at all to Hashem, you're just saying words and nothing is happening for you. But Rabbi Nachman saying, you have to cheer yourself up, you have to look at the good points that you have. The fact that you even just wake up to daven, or the fact that maybe you didn't wake up to daven, but when you remember, you say a bracha. Whatever it is, you have to cheer yourself up with the little bit that you have. The Rebbe's teaching regarding prayer are very extensive and can only be outlined here. If you are intelligent, you will understand the main points. Ponder them well, for they contain awesome advice and are full of truth and sincerity. Look further in the Rebbe's lessons on the verses. The deeps, they cover them from Shemos, and make a light for the ark from Genesis, appearing in Likutei Moharan 1:9 and 1:12, respectively. Open your eyes and contemplate these lessons well. In these lessons, the Rebbe says that the main thing is truth. You may be distracted during your devotions, but grasp onto truth. No matter what your level, you can speak the simple truth in your prayers. So we actually spoke about that a lot last week, about just connecting to Hashem in truth, just being honest, just, Hashem, I need help. Hashem, please help me with my tefillah. It's terrible. Please help me. Whatever it is, just try and speak truthfully and honestly and connect to Hashem at whatever level you're at. Consider the Rebbe's words, and you will certainly be worthy of true prayer. It is an important rule in all of devotion. So that's the end of this amazing piece. So just to recap the piece a little bit, because I know it was long, Rabbi Nachman saying, daven simply, just understand the meaning of the words. Just listen to what you're saying, and he says that the most important point in tefillah is not to be discouraged, to never give up. And again, this goes back to what I was saying in this introduction. Tefillah is called avoda. It's an avoda, and it's not going to happen overnight. There's going to be times where we'll be on a roll and we'll have great kavanah for a few weeks, and then other times where we feel like we're not getting anywhere. Many of us have had times like that for days or for weeks or for months. But Rabbi Nachman tells us, anyways, don't give up, don't stop. And he says at times like those, a person needs to just simply say the words like a child. We have to open our eyes wide and try to have that naivety and simplicity and just see the words of tefillah as simply as we can. And he says that, a person shouldn't feel that just because he can't connect, that he's a failure, God forbid. Really, he's reminding us here that prayer is really a very high and holy thing. It's higher than Torah. It's not so easy to connect to. So just start simple. We don't need to get ahead of ourselves. We just need to say the words and keep on going, whether we're connecting or whether we're not connecting. So that one part actually reminded me of something. I work in an assisted living, and it's actually a special assisted living that's just for people with dementia and Alzheimer's. So, a lot of times as I'm walking the floors, well, I used to see, now we're, not having visitors, but there would be these faithful wives and husbands that come to visit their spouses in the home every day. And when they come, most of the time there's no connection because their loved one has Alzheimer's or dementia. And, they come anyways, and they don't really expect a connection. They don't expect a great conversation or a good laugh. They're just, they're coming just to be with the person that they love. But sometimes they get lucky and a resident will be having a good day, and there will be this beautiful moment that's so, so special to both, the person with dementia, the resident, and the spouse. So I think it's the same for us. We come to pray because there's so much love there and we want to connect so badly. But tefillah, it's very high and it's very holy, and we may not connect all the time, but we want to keep on trying. We just need to show up like these spouses do for their loved ones. We need to show up. Rabbi Nachman told his Hasidim to forever try in tefillah. He told them to ignore the distractions and to just keep on trying your best to connect. And then he ended this piece with what we spoke about last week about just davening in truth, just finding this point of truth within ourselves and connecting to Hashem with that. So on that note, I'd like to wish everybody a wonderful Pesach, and that we should really just get rid of the chametz in our lives and all that extra that we don't need, and connect with Hashem through tefillah and through our mitzvahs and through learning Torah and through everything that we can. So thank you everybody for listening and have a wonderful night.